Work is almost always about getting somewhere, right? It's about manifesting something, it's about accomplishing and achieving something. And that is important. I think we can all be grateful to the fact that that exists to give us a sense of purpose, to give us a sense of direction and something to do. Asking the question of the role that work plays in your life is the starting point. And that can kind of connect you with a deeper perspective and a sense of purpose of like, wait, why am I doing any of this? Why am I working in this job? Why am I living the life that I'm living? And so I think that's a great first question. It's like, where is work in that broader context? And work has these negative connotations, but work is an amazing place to make a contribution in life. Obviously, it's how we get our sustenance, but it's also, I mean, in this context, you see, it's like a way we make connections with other people who are working. You know, it's a big part of our social environment and our social life. And so I think that's a great question to be asking of like, what role does work play? And I think then a second question that is equally as important is, well, what is the meaningful life that I am actually pursuing? And then therefore, what role does work play within that? That's the meaning of life question that is probably so overwhelming that a lot of times we just don't have any answer for that. So we just have to, we just keep on. But I think it's a worthwhile and important question to be asking. Like, what is the life that we're trying to lead? How do we create meaning and derive meaning from the experiences of our life? Where do we ask these questions? Work is the dominant force in our lives. Spend the most time working. And so if we don't ask these questions in this space, when exactly are we going to ask them? Our life gets so busy and filled up with all sorts of things, a lot of which are great, entertainment, again, our families, our relationships, but it can be hard really to find those moments to step back and recognize these kind of truisms, more spiritual truisms about life, right? That life is passing in an instant, or like you blink and it's going to be gone. And that we all kind of come into this life with these high hopes and these dreams, but then, life itself kind of beats us down and it's complicated and it forces us to settle or to kind of become more pragmatic, to ground those fantasies and dreams we came in with something more practical. And so I think those are narratives we all have to confront. It's part of growing up. It's part of developing a human identity in our modern world. But when you have an example like that of really being at your own funeral, of recognizing your own limitation, our mortality, that I will not be here forever at all, that can often be the ultimate motivator to make changes, to become aware, to start living your life in a different way than we have been.
The first piece that comes up for me is the answer to that question in terms of how we do this is going to look different for different people based on their styles, right? So what I mean by that is for someone like me, I think the container exploring that question tends to matter. If I want to be thinking about something deep, thinking about, purpose and values and meaning, it's not something that I would typically just be able to do, anywhere at any time. I can do it anywhere, anytime for somebody else. But if it's for myself, I like to either be in a comfortable setting with people that I know really well, where we're all exchanging stories and going deep with each other, right, as one version. And that can happen even over dinner. It doesn't have to be, some whole getaway or anything, but just something small. And often just having a conversation or two conversations about some of these questions really can shift something meaningful. Now, on the other hand, if you're experiencing burnout, if you're experiencing even a deeper disconnection from this idea of meaning and purpose, on the other end of the spectrum, I think really stepping away from the context that's making you feel that way, taking some time off, going to a new physical setting, going on a particular kind of vacation, either on your own or with other people, depending on what works for you. That context switch and that setting shift can really go a long way towards kind of neurologically unlocking new pathways and allowing us to reconnect with our creativity, in a way that we can answer those questions and explore those questions, and be able to then map what comes out of that back to our normal lives.
I want to touch on how can we create that space and time in our day-to-day life and within the context of our workplace environments. There's three things I want to point out. The first is something you already touched on, Rahul, which is relationships and conversations with people who we trust, who we can believe that they have our best interests in mind, and we trust their perspective and opinion. Hopefully those are the people that are closest to us in our life. Having conversations, having open inquiries with those people and gaining their perspective and counsel, I think is a great first place to start. And just seeing how are they perceiving us? How do they perceive, especially someone who knows us well, where do they read us in our current life and in our life trajectory? And so being willing to broach that conversation with people who we respect and trust, asking questions to gain direct feedback, supporting people to work out tough questions that aren't always easy to talk about with your family member or with your boss or with your team members. And so talking to a coach or a therapist, and there's just something powerful that happens when we start to vocalize our experiences and what's going on inside.
It starts by trying to understand, what is a meaningful life for you, right? What is a meaningful life for you, and what role does work play in that meaningful life? And what we were just starting to talk about is those questions can feel heavy, they can feel complex, they can feel daunting, and they might be questions you don't want to ask. What we're encouraging, though, is to create safety in your exploration of that question, and to allow yourself to go there and trust that your life isn't suddenly going to fall apart, that you're not suddenly going to have an existential meltdown, and that some of the ways that you can do that, one, trusting your relationships, finding a safe outlet, like Gabe said, loved ones, coach, therapist, in some cases your manager, if you have that kind of relationship with them, finding a gateway into your own mind, journaling. I'll name that today I was struggling to focus for a while in the morning, and started to kind of just slow down and notice that something felt a little bit off for me. And so I just opened a blank notes page on my computer and just typed out for about 5-10 minutes, not very long, and uncovered that I was holding on to some emotion and some distress related to some personal life areas. And just the act of recognizing that, looking at my life beyond work, allowed me to come back to my work with much more rejuvenation and renewal. And so this idea of free writing, of journaling, certainly one that can produce quick insights and quick shifts in your energetic states. Finally, mindfulness, right, as Gabe was talking about. With all of that thrown back your way, again, just going to encourage you all to ask questions, to put your own scenarios out there. Let us know if you want it to be anonymous, or rather, we'll keep it anonymous by default. And we're happy to use some of those scenarios as opportunities to explore it together as a group.